Hi, it's Jason here at Fraser Valley Rose Farm. Do you get black spot on your roses? Would you even know what to look for? Let me pull one off here and give you a close-up look. Black spot, as you might expect from the name, is this little black dot or patch on leaves, usually surrounded by a yellow halo. I'll give you some other close-ups as well. It can range from cosmetic and minor, like this one here where it's just a few leaves at the bottom of the plant, or it can proceed to cover a whole rose with many leaves like this that will eventually yellow and drop down to the base, causing loss of energy and loss of productivity from the plant. So what even is black spot and how did it come to your garden in the first place? Well, it's a fungal spore that travels in through the wind currents. It's pretty hard to exclude, germinates on the leaves and causes these black spots. Now, I like to treat it almost as a cosmetic issue, which isn't to say it can't be serious, but for most gardeners, most roses, and most climates, it is a minor cosmetic issue and rarely rises to the level of challenging the health of the plant or its productivity, except in very susceptible varieties. So you don't have to worry or panic when you see it. It's not something you did wrong. It's not something you could have excluded. And with a few basic measures, you can get a good level of control. I will quickly proceed onto those things that actually work, but first, some home remedies that have no hope of helping and can actually be harmful. Milk will not work against black spot. Apple cider vinegar will not work against black spot. Garlic spray has no effectiveness. Dish soap will actually harm the leaves of your plants. Don't use that against black spot. So those things that are actually effective as sprays are not curative. And so you could try something like copper-based sprays, sulfur-based sprays, or potassium bicarbonate-based sprays, all relatively safe, but effectiveness, they won't get rid of the black spot that's already there. They may slow down the spread further onto the plant, which is why I go with methods that are more like removal promptly of those affected leaves. This prompt removal of affected leaves is especially useful for varieties that are otherwise putting on a nice floral display, but then when you look a little bit further down into the canopy, you find that there's a small amount of black spot creeping in. You will often notice the black spot developing lower on the plant. Down here inside where the air circulation is poorest, it's also part of its life strategy that these leaves will then drop around the base of the plant. So if you look into the litter at the base there, you're going to find that there's black spotty leaves that have already dropped down to the base there. They will release spores and then infect back upwards on the plant. Here is the rose, relatively nicely cleaned up. I've got some fresh looking leaves that don't have any signs of black spot, and down low I got rid of the majority of the leaf litter and debris and the black spot down low, and I'm going to call this good enough, because the thing is, with roses and black spot, there is no such thing as perfect sanitation or exclusion. I took the leaves that I removed, I put them into a compost that I don't reuse on the roses, and that's going to be good enough. So obviously the Pat Austin that I just showed you, you would call that a mild case, pretty preventable, pretty controllable. This one here I want to give you as an example of one that had a moderate to severe case. I highlighted this one in my monthly care video, and what you will see there, and I'll put the footage in here, is that I did a full strip down of all the affected stems right to the base, just leaving the ones that are growing healthy and refreshed from the base to give this plant a fair chance going further into the season. So a minor leaf removal can work in those mild cases, and in a moderate case, a deeper prune can be effective. But what happens when you have those truly extreme or severe cases? The example I used in my monthly care video was Variegata de Bologna, a bourbon rose, which happens to be extremely susceptible, as is the whole class. I find Zephyrine Druhin in our area always gets black spot, and so what I did is I cut it right to the ground and I have removed the plant. For context, that only happens in a small number of my roses. I removed 2 roses out of 400 this year because of extreme vulnerability to black spot. Now, what do you replace them with? Well, preferably you'd replace them with something with a decent amount of black spot resistance. Now, I know the standard recommendation at this point would be to go for knockout roses, but you're not limited to grocery store roses. You can get some really cool showy roses. Some examples I'll give you. Olivia Rose Austin is a David Austin rose that's well known for its performance in trials for black spot. Another one, Caramella by Cordes, Gorgeous, I've loved it in my garden this year. Or Petite Peach, which was introduced by my friend Teresa Byington. All well known for their excellent black spot resistance, and they're not the only ones. This one is Guillain de Félagonde, an old rambler, which does really quite nicely against black spot, and you may spot over my left shoulder Fellowship or Livin' Easy in bright orange that also has a pretty good track record. So there's lots of choices out there. I'm going to finish up the video by saying that even though I have focused in this video on cleanup during the season, there is something to be said for coming into your season clean. That means a good prune right at the end of winter, beginning of spring, to get rid of all of that old material from last year, the canes and the leaves and everything around the base that can carry that disease forward through the season. I like to accompany that by a dormant spray if I can get it before the buds break, something like lime sulfur or whatever you're allowed to use in your jurisdiction. All right, that's all I have to say to you about black spot. Not impossible to deal with a bit of prompt attention. And if you have any questions, please drop those down into the comments below the video.